I'm focused on doing. It's just part of it. You know, there's entertainers and there's competitors. And I totally understand that. And my job is to compete. And that's what I'm focused on doing.
Good so far. And this one is picked off and going back the other way. It's Andrew Makuba. A pick six the other way.
Really, really good. Yeah, cool. Proud of you. All right. Cool. Really, really nice job.
You're not fully proud, kinda.
I'm
kinda proud.
Look, for this first side, was a perfect no, but she made plays, she operated.
Brown, Eagles got it. I believe the Eagles recovered.
Oh my gosh, look who it is.
KJ Henry into the end zone for a touchdown.
The thing of being a quarterback is leading your team. I'll say definitely the scoreboard. I think we did that pretty good. And just, just being consistent, even though if things going our way or not going our way, being able to bounce back and not stay in the hole. Being a quarterback is going to be ups, downs, it's going to be pros, cons, everything. So you just got to stay level-headed through it.
What if I told you that a 37-minute Instagram live between two quarterbacks accidentally exposed the biggest lie the NFL has been selling for decades? That Shedeur Sanders didn't just embarrass Dillon Gabriel. He accidentally shattered the entire illusion of what the league calls leadership. And the panic that followed? That wasn't about a rookie getting cocky. That was about the NFL realizing their carefully manufactured system of control just got exposed on live television to over 100,000 people. Stick around, because what I'm about to show you will change how you see every quarterback controversy forever. For years, the NFL has sold us a fairy tale about leadership. They've convinced us that veteran quarterbacks earn respect through experience, that there's a natural hierarchy, and that paying your dues is what creates authentic leaders. But that Instagram live between Sanders and Gabriel wasn't just entertainment. It was the moment this entire manufactured narrative collapsed in real time. What you witnessed wasn't a rookie getting lucky or a veteran having a bad night. You witnessed the difference between authentic leadership and the NFL's carefully constructed leadership theater. And the league's response? The way coaches, media, and even teammates reacted afterward? That tells us everything we need to know about how terrified they are of players who can't be controlled, can't be scripted, and can't be broken down into their neat little system. Here's what the NFL doesn't want you to understand. Traditional quarterback leadership is largely manufactured theater. For decades, they've created this mythology that leadership comes from time served, from following the prescribed path, from saying the right things in press conferences and deferring to coaches and veterans. Look at how Dillon Gabriel approached that live stream. He came in with all the traditional leadership talking points. Experience matters, rookies need to learn the ropes, respect the hierarchy. There's entertainers and there's competitors, he said, trying to use the league's favorite tactic of diminishing authentic personality in favor of manufactured professionalism. This is textbook NFL leadership programming. Reduce everything to tired cliches, maintain the power structure, never let authenticity threaten the system. But here's where it gets interesting. Gabriel had every advantage the NFL's leadership mythology promises. He's the veteran. He's been there before. He should have had the composure, the wisdom, the natural authority that comes with experience. Yet within minutes of facing unscripted, authentic pressure from Sanders, that entire facade crumbled. When Sanders calmly said, "The media didn't throw those interceptions. The media didn't walk off the field without talking to your teammates. That's on you." He wasn't just pointing out Gabriel's mistakes. He was exposing the fundamental flaw in the NFL's leadership model. It's all surface-level performance with no substance underneath. The most telling moment? When Gabriel tried to play the veteran support card, claiming the older guys in the locker room had his back, and Sanders simply smiled and said, "Funny, because they're in my group chat." That wasn't just a comeback. That was the moment authentic leadership exposed manufactured leadership as the hollow performance it really is. Think about what that means. Gabriel, the supposed leader with all the experience and veteran credibility, was so disconnected from his own teammates that he didn't even know they were already gravitating toward the rookie. That's not leadership failure. That's the inevitable result of a system that teaches players to perform leadership rather than actually lead. The NFL has spent decades convincing us that leadership is about saying the right things, following protocol, and respecting hierarchy. But authentic leadership, the kind Sanders displayed, is about accountability, authenticity, and the ability to remain composed under pressure while speaking truth. The league system can't manufacture that, can't control it, and can't replicate it through their traditional development programs. What made that Instagram live so dangerous to the NFL's narrative wasn't just that Sanders won, it was how he won. This wasn't a press conference with prepared statements and media handlers. This wasn't a controlled interview where questions are pre-screened and answers are coached. This was raw, unfiltered, live interaction where authentic leadership could be measured against manufactured leadership in real time. Sanders didn't just stay calm. He systematically dismantled Gabriel's credibility using specific facts. You mean like going 3 for 14 in camp and blaming the receivers? That wasn't a lucky shot. That was someone who had been paying attention, keeping receipts, and was prepared to back up every statement with concrete evidence. Meanwhile, Gabriel fell back on generic talking points about media exaggeration and veteran respect. The viewer count shooting from 80,000 to over 100,000 during the exchange tells us everything. People could sense they were witnessing something unprecedented, the moment when authentic leadership exposed manufactured leadership as the performance it really is. The chat exploding with rookie QB1 wasn't just fans picking sides. It was the audience recognizing genuine leadership when they saw it. But here's what's truly revealing: Sanders never raised his voice, never resorted to insults, never lost his composure. He simply stated facts and let Gabriel's reactions speak for themselves. When Gabriel's voice rose and his words came faster, trying to regain control, Sanders slowed down, letting each statement land. That's not something you can teach in quarterback school, that's instinctive leadership under pressure. The most devastating moment came when Gabriel tried to change topics to generic team goals, and Sanders brought it right back. Competition does make us better. That's why I'm here holding you accountable. That single statement exposed the entire lie. Real leaders don't avoid difficult conversations, they create them. They don't let teammates slide on poor performance, they hold them accountable, even when it's uncomfortable. Gabriel's response? He stopped trying to win and went into damage control mode. His answers became defensive, his body language tense. By the 30-minute mark, he was done. He forced a smile, muttered something about time will tell, and ended his side of the stream. Meanwhile, Sanders stayed on for 5 more minutes, answering fan questions and thanking viewers, not because he was gloating, but because that's what authentic leaders do. They don't run from difficult moments, they use them to connect and build trust. The NFL's traditional leadership model teaches players to avoid controversy, stick to talking points, and never put themselves in positions where they might lose control of the narrative. Sanders did the exact opposite and emerged stronger. That's not just a different approach to leadership, that's proof that the NFL's entire leadership development system is fundamentally flawed. The real story isn't what happened during that live stream, it's what happened afterward. The NFL's response revealed just how threatened they are by authentic leadership that can't be controlled or manufactured through their traditional systems. Look at Kevin Stefanski's reaction. Despite Gabriel's complete meltdown on live television and his continued struggles in preseason, 0 touchdowns, costly turnovers, that devastating pick six by Andrew Makuba, Stefanski doubled down on starting him. This wasn't about performance evaluation. This was about institutional control. The league would rather lose with a quarterback they can manage than win with one who threatens their carefully constructed hierarchy. Even more telling was how the media coverage shifted. Instead of focusing on Sanders' composure and Gabriel's breakdown, the narrative became about handling disputes publicly and whether rookies should respect the process. They were desperately trying to reframe authentic leadership as a character flaw because they couldn't deny what everyone had witnessed. The coaching staff's private conversations, according to sources, weren't about Sanders crossing a line, They were about how to handle a player who had just demonstrated leadership skills they couldn't teach or control. When teammates started gravitating toward Sanders, when his group chat comment proved he already had veteran support, it exposed how hollow Gabriel's supposed leadership really was. But here's the most revealing part: Gabriel's continued attempts to undermine Sanders even after his own poor performance. Calling him an entertainer instead of a competitor wasn't strategy, it was desperation. When your leadership is manufactured rather than authentic, the only way to maintain it is by diminishing others rather than elevating yourself. The institutional panic became even more obvious during preseason games. Despite Sanders throwing 2 touchdowns while Gabriel managed 0, despite Sanders' ability to stretch the field while Gabriel played conservative short routes, despite Emmanuel Ako's analysis calling Sanders' accuracy pinpoint perfect through multiple defenders, the coaching staff maintained their support for Gabriel. This isn't about football evaluation, it's about system preservation. The NFL has invested decades in creating a development pipeline that produces controllable, manageable quarterbacks who follow scripts and respect hierarchy. Sanders represents something they can't manufacture: authentic leadership that emerges naturally and can't be broken down or rebuilt according to their specifications. The most damning evidence? GM Andrew Berry's interaction with Sanders after the preseason game. The genuine pride and admiration in Berry's eyes, the playful banter, the obvious respect, that's what authentic leadership recognition looks like. Meanwhile, Gabriel was still taking shots at teammates instead of focusing on his own performance. The NFL's panic isn't about a rookie being disrespectful. It's about the realization that their entire leadership development system has been exposed as inadequate when faced with natural, authentic leadership that doesn't need their approval or validation to be effective. What Sanders demonstrated during that live stream wasn't just superior composure, it was the power of authenticity in an environment built on manufactured personas. The NFL has spent decades teaching players to be media trained, politically correct, and carefully managed. Sanders proved that authenticity is not only more powerful but completely unstoppable when it's genuine. Consider the contrast in their approaches. Gabriel came armed with traditional NFL talking points: respect the process, experience matters, rookies need to learn. These are the safe, approved responses that media training teaches. But when faced with specific, factual challenges from Sanders, those generic responses crumbled immediately. Sanders, meanwhile, spoke with the kind of specificity that only comes from someone who's been paying attention and keeping track. When he mentioned Gabriel's 3 for 14 performance in camp, when he referenced the suspension that left the team scrambling, when he pointed out the missed reads and poor clock management, these weren't prepared talking points. This was someone who had been studying, learning, and holding himself and his teammates to a higher standard. The group chat moment perfectly encapsulates this difference. Gabriel assumed veteran support based on hierarchy and traditional respect structures. Sanders knew he had veteran support because he had earned it through authentic relationships and demonstrated competence. One was operating on assumption, the other was operating on reality. But here's what makes this truly dangerous to the NFL system: Sanders' authenticity wasn't just more effective, it was more appealing to audiences. The viewer count surge, the social media explosion, the immediate meme creation, all of this happened because people recognize something genuine in an environment that's usually carefully scripted. The league has trained us to expect quarterback controversies to play out through carefully managed press conferences and diplomatic non-answers. Sanders bypassed that entire system and spoke directly to fans with unfiltered honesty. When he said, "This isn't about me being a rookie or you being a vet. This is about showing up every day like your job depends on it, because it does." He wasn't delivering a prepared statement. He was speaking truth that resonated because it was authentic. Even his post-game interviews revealed this authenticity advantage. While Gabriel was still taking shots at Sanders, calling him an entertainer, Sanders was focused on team leadership and consistency. "The most important thing of being a quarterback is leading your team," he said, emphasizing the scoreboard and staying level-headed through ups and downs. No manufactured drama, no defensive posturing, just authentic leadership perspective. The NFL's traditional system produces quarterbacks who can handle scripted situations but crumble under authentic pressure. Sanders proved that authentic leadership not only handles pressure better but actually thrives in unscripted environments where manufactured personas fall apart. This authenticity advantage extends beyond individual performance. It creates genuine connections with teammates, builds real trust with fans, and establishes credibility that can't be manufactured through media training or institutional support. That Instagram Live didn't just expose Dillon Gabriel's limitations, it revealed the fatal flaw in the NFL's entire quarterback development and evaluation system. The league has built a machine designed to produce controllable, manageable players, but it's completely unprepared to handle or properly evaluate authentic leadership when it emerges naturally. Look at the evidence. Sanders outperformed Gabriel in every measurable way during preseason. 2 touchdowns to 0. Better accuracy under pressure. Superior field vision and decision-making. The ability to stretch defenses with deeper throws while Gabriel was limited to conservative short routes. Emmanuel Ako's breakdown showed Sanders making pinpoint perfect throws between multiple defenders that most quarterbacks wouldn't even attempt. Yet the coaching staff continued starting Gabriel. This isn't incompetence, it's systematic bias toward players who fit their controllable model over players who demonstrate superior ability but can't be easily managed. The system's fatal flaw is that it prioritizes compliance over competence. Gabriel represents everything the NFL's development system is designed to produce: respectful of hierarchy, media-trained, willing to follow scripts, and non-threatening to established power structures. The fact that he's less effective on the field becomes secondary to his value as a controllable asset. Sanders represents everything the system fears: natural leadership that doesn't require institutional validation, authentic communication that bypasses traditional media control, and the ability to build genuine relationships with teammates without going through approved channels. His superior performance becomes almost irrelevant because he threatens the system's ability to maintain control. This explains Kevin Stefanski's seemingly irrational decision-making. It's not about evaluating quarterback talent, it's about preserving a system that allows coaches and front offices to maintain control over player development and team dynamics. A quarterback who can lead authentically without institutional support threatens the entire power structure. The most revealing moment came when Sanders stayed on the live stream for 5 additional minutes after Gabriel left, answering fan questions and building connections. This wasn't showboating, this was natural leadership extending beyond the conflict to create positive relationships. The system has no framework for evaluating or developing this kind of authentic engagement. Even GM Andrew Berry's obvious admiration for Sanders after the preseason game reveals the internal conflict. Berry recognizes authentic leadership and superior performance when he sees it, but the institutional system demands support for the more controllable option. The fatal flaw is now exposed. The NFL's development system can't produce what Sanders brings naturally, can't control what makes him effective, and can't properly evaluate authentic leadership because their entire framework is built around manufactured alternatives. This creates an impossible situation for the league. They can continue supporting inferior but controllable players like Gabriel, proving their system is fundamentally flawed. Or they can embrace authentic leaders like Sanders, admitting their traditional development methods are inadequate. The Instagram Live forced this choice into the open, and the NFL's response, doubling down on the controllable option despite clear evidence of its inferiority, reveals everything we need to know about their priorities. So here's what really happened during that 37-minute Instagram Live. Shedeur Sanders didn't just beat Dillon Gabriel in a quarterback debate. He accidentally exposed the biggest lie the NFL has been selling us for decades, that leadership can be manufactured, controlled, and developed through their traditional systems. Gabriel represented everything the league's machine is designed to produce: compliant, media-trained, respectful of hierarchy, and completely controllable. Sanders represented everything they fear: authentic, unscripted, naturally commanding, and impossible to manage through traditional methods. The panic that followed, Stefanski's irrational continued support for Gabriel despite clear evidence of Sanders' superiority, the media's attempt to reframe authentic leadership as a character flaw, Gabriel's desperate attempts to undermine Sanders even after his own failures, all of this reveals a system in crisis. The NFL built a machine to produce controllable quarterbacks, but they never prepared for what happens when authentic leadership emerges naturally and exposes their manufactured alternative as the hollow performance it really is. The question now isn't whether Sanders will eventually start, it's whether the NFL can adapt to a new generation of players who refuse to be broken down and rebuilt according to their specifications. Because if that Instagram Live proved anything, it's that authenticity will always defeat manufactured leadership when they're forced to compete on equal ground. What do you think? Have we been sold a lie about NFL leadership for decades? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to see more analysis of how the league really operates behind the scenes, make sure you're subscribed. The truth is always more interesting than the narrative they want us to believe.